I feel that my deepest, not deep, but my most memorable things about the fight came were when people like Gil Clancy, they were the kind of guys I knew. They were, I don't know, like George Steinbrenner. I like George. I knew George Steinbrenner when he was in horse racing before he bought the Yankees. That's how far back I go. Down in Florida. He's a rich guy with a bunch of horses. And a very tough guy, too. Very tough guy. I like him very much. But I think you're very lucky if you can fraternize and get to know top people. Something that they have that you don't have to like them. They don't want you. You don't have to like them. They don't have to. You don't have. They don't think you have to like them. Harry Markson he was my first boxing promoter. I had some guys in Chicago that promoted fights there. But Harry Markson was a big man at the Garden. John Congdon was a PR. Harry always had these stories to tell. He told about King Levinsky. And King Levinsky was going to have a big fight with Max Baer or somebody like that. Big fight. The Garden was back. I think it was a New York fight anyway. And Harry Markson, they'd make that drop go up the Catskills and drop in. And Harry walks in, and King Levinsky's sparring with some big guy, no headgear. The guy's pounding around the head and everything. The Kingfish gets out of the ring, and he's introduced to Markson and all that. And Harry Markson said, "This fight is next Friday night." He said, what are you training without a headgear for? He said, "What's the difference? She's not going to hurt me," you know, and all that kind of stuff. And he says, "Well, you can get a cut or something. You got that there to protect you so you don't get battered up during training." "By God, you got a point there," Kingfish said. He goes straight over to the bag, picks out his helmet, puts it on, goes over and punches the bag. He puts a headgear on. But I mean, these guys are so full of those great stories. When I was in the Army in California, he and Maxie Rosenblum had an act, a nightclub act, and a bunch of us go to that act. And then they had a little alley behind this club, and there are these two guys that go out there, and we were told they came out there, so we ought to go around there to look at them up close and see what they're like. And Max Baer is cocky, just like you expect him to be. But Maxie Rosenblum was really a sharp guy. And I heard later, just a few years ago, that one time they got in a big hassle, and Maxie Rosenblum just cleaned them up in a one-on-one fight. That's something?
It is something.
Way back then, there were a few guys who were good fighters, but they talked a great fight. Now they all think they can talk it. You know, like last week when this, who was at the fought last Saturday night?
When Gatti fought
Gatti. I didn't know anything about the other guy, but Gatti has been built up as such a glamour guy. And he's been beat up so much. I couldn't see that this guy was really good. Gatti beat him because Gatti should never be a champion.
Right.
He's not a champion type of fighter. And the guy took care of him. If you see Gatti in the ring training, he looks like a great fighter. But Ismail Laguna was a great gym fighter. And both Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran were great gym fighters, as well as great fighters. Skipping rope, they had their own style.
You say Mike was a kid. We're talking about, of course, Mike Tyson. What were your impressions when you first saw him fight as a kid?
Well, he was around. I didn't have much of an opinion of him, and they didn't talk a lot about him because Jose was the light heavyweight champion, and
yes.
But Jose knew Mike had something. But he couldn't listen. It's hard to listen to Jose because he goes overboard. You know, Jerry Cooney was the greatest thing that ever happened. You know, and he looked good the night against Norton. There was nothing like that. He's incredible that night.
Yes.
I painted Ingmar. But when Ingmar beat Floyd the first time, he looked like nobody could beat him. And Floyd had some kind of a heart to do that. He didn't have that for Liston. No, Liston just took care of him. But Floyd was always such a. I went to Sweden with Nat Fleischer and Sinatra, a whole plane load of guys, to see Floyd fight Eddie Machen. Eddie Machen had a Hollywood guy in his corner, Al Silvano, this guy's name was. It was a Hollywood kind of thing. And the people at ringside, there's guys, vendors at ringside selling bananas. Bananas, that's guys, you know. But it was, but Floyd just really mopped him up. And over there, these women, they were all over the place, and Floyd was very popular. He was a different kind of guy over there, and that's where I never got to know him that well, but I saw him behave that way, and I didn't know him, because he used to give people a hot foot all the time. And he was a good guy, but he kept declining in his attitude. You know, he was a very unhappy guy his last years, the boxing commission and everything. And the boxing writers were something then too. Jimmy Cannon. Yeah. Jimmy Cannon was a bedsitter, you know, he's just a guy, but he was a bright guy, and he was owly and pissed off all the time. But I used to read him all the time, and I used to read him because I had to see him a lot. He's always around. He lived up in Central Park West. And they provide transportation. You're up in the Casco. Jimmy Cannon would get in the car, sit in the back seat. What kind of a car is this to give us? We should have a stretch, you know, all that kind of stuff. What kind of transportation is always bitching? He was lucky. He took the subway in New York. But these guys were really colorful. The Joe Louis were down in Houston, and Joe Louis was fighting Big Cat Williams. And it was a big fight. No, I mean, Ali was fighting Big Cat Williams, but Joe Louis was ghostwriting for some paper. And we all used to sit at the same table and eat every night. Cannon and I can't remember the other sports writer's name there, but Joe Louis would come sometimes and sit with us. And that's when we found out that Joe Louis was, you see the guy and say, what you gonna order? What you having? Chicken, okay. What are you having? And he'd find out. And so he would order what one of the guys had, and the food would come, put it down, and Joe Louis said, quick, switch plates. He thought everybody was trying to poison him. He was living that way then.
Right.
You know, and he had a lot of, but I loved Joe Louis. You know, Joe used to call me by name, and every time Joe Louis spoke to me, I was thrilled. Teddy Brenner used to come here and buy drawings from me. So then he'd sell them. And I used to give him special prices of drawings I didn't like that I know nobody would buy. And so he'd take them and sell them, and just for the hell of it. You know, he didn't need to do that. That's the way he was like Rocky Graziano. He had to do something shady all the time, something a little strange, so people would talk about it. So anyway, he calls up, he says, LeRoy, I'm coming up from some drawings. And I said, you're barred from the studio, I'm not selling you anymore, and all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm coming up anyway. I said, Tony, he said, you come up, you won't get past the lobby. He said, I told you, LeRoy, I'm coming up, and when I tell you I'm coming up, I'll tell you why I'm coming. I'm bringing the Brown Bomber himself. I said, come on over, Ted. So in walks Joe Louis into this room. He's wearing a brown suit, brown shoes, brown shirt. And then there was Joe Louis in my studio. I thought, my God, I got to say something to him. I said, Joe, I really like you in brown. I was the Brown Bomber, ain't I? You know, but Joe Louis. And then Teddy says, they had a little routine. So Teddy said, Joe, answer me now. Yes, sir, yes, sir. He said, if you were to fight today, or you're going to fight Muhammad Ali, he said, who would win the fight? Clay, he win it. Clay, he win the fight. Teddy would say, why? Why do you think that Muhammad would win the fight? He said, Clay, he 24 years old. Joe Louis, he 48. But this kind of stuff, you know, you can't, I never forget it. Right in my house. Benny Leonard. Oh, they had a beautiful painting of Benny Leonard in the garden that went. And the garden moved from one building to the other. And I asked the guy, John Congdon had the painting in his office. I said, where's the Benny Leonard? He said, I don't know, we lost it in the moving. Jeez, it's like a great, great painting.
Right.
Jesus.
That's terrible.
Those two Crisco brothers. I can't remember the reason we went into the dressing room, because I don't go into the dressing rooms anymore. It's too complicated now. But you used to just walk in. If you walk in with Teddy Brenner or Harry Markson or something. But I go in there, and the younger one was fighting. But anyway, I made a remark to one of the brothers, and the other brother got like this. Here I am in the dressing room. These guys are ready to fight. They're on edge before a fight, and you shouldn't go in there. And I said the wrong thing. Whatever I said was the wrong thing. I had the story. I wrote it down actually, but I forgot it. What the reason was. But I go back in the dressing room like when Gil and he had Johnny Pearsall, and Johnny Pearsall was fighting Big Train Lincoln, and Big Train Lincoln was a sparring partner with Liston, and he always looked good, and he had a good record, and but he's big, and Johnny Pearsall was really a light heavyweight, and the guy weighed about 218 or something like that, and he was taller, and a better, overwhelming favorite. So I'm in there, and Johnny's moving around, and I'm standing with Gil and Howie Albert, and I said, geez, he looks awfully good. Howie says, tell him that. So he goes shuffling by, you know. And I said, geez, you put on a lot of weight or something, you look so big. And he feels good, he moves on again, he starts throwing harder punches, and you know, and I said, you're a full-fledged heavyweight. And he looked like a 175-pound fighter, that's what he looked like. I just said it not for the hell of it, I just said it to be nice, why I said it, to impress Howie or something. But anyway, he went in there and won every round of that fight. He just walked out there and took care of that guy. And that guy never amounted to anything after that. He's straight downhill. In fact, he went to Sweden and got knocked out a couple of times by Liston over there. I think that's what the boxing game is, it's the truth.